All right.
Yeah, I believe we're live. Yeah, I had
All
to
right.
quickly do a quick thing with audio just to make sure everything was working fine.
So am I in your stream right now or am I not in your stream? I have no idea
We
what's
can
going
we can hear
on
you in my
Ecamm.
stream right now. Here, I'll add you here. Let's do this. So yeah, now you're there.
There we go. I feel like I love all of these things. Welcome everybody. Welcome chat. You're experiencing Will and I finally figuring out all of the idiosyncrasies of streaming on like a billion different platforms. We're everywhere right now. We are taking the internet by storm. That is what this is all about.
I am struggling to. I see myself on too many screens right now. Give me a second.
Yeah, me too. I have the Zoom window and the StreamYard window and the Ecamm window all open, and I'm just looking at other people, and it's fantastic.
Well, I
I
think
feel
I've
like
I fixed it kind of for me. I actually no, I haven't. I lied. I lied. Now I've fixed it. So I've moved you over here, and now I can just look at you in the eyes. So now I only see you twice. I see you here, and then right below yourself, you're again.
there we go. I literally had to move one window over so I'm actually looking at you because otherwise I'm just going to be like
Yeah.
looking to the left. I need like another camera. I need the multi-camera setup.
Now you
Um,
say that it makes it more complicated. I had the
yeah,
multi-camera setup for a little bit, and then I was just like, you know what? It's not worth the effort. It's just not
I
worth
don't
the
know.
effort.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this. What are you running as your camera? Are you running on a DSLR or are you running on
It's
like
a
a high end?
mirrorless. I have my Sony. I think this is the Sony A7S III, if I'm not mistaken. Um, that yeah, but I switch it. I kind of switch back and forth between this and the four, just depending on what I need. Right, like if I'm doing something where I need more photography type stuff, I'm pulling the four out. Whereas I'll just leave the S here. Whereas if I need 120 FPS for whatever reason, no one needs it. But if I want it, pull off the A7S III. So it's on a little what do you call those things? Like a I forget what you call them. It's a clip where I can easily pull it on and off. So like I
Oh,
can
I
put
like
all of
that.
my cameras on and off. It's kind of like a tripod plate.
That's fantastic. I love that. I've been feeling like I need to upgrade my camera game, but I don't really know where to go. And my wife really wants to get a new camera as well. And we're like, do we just spend like a couple grand and like get some nice mirrorless cameras? Do you like them? Like, are you a fan like of the mirrorless setup on Sony?
I have only ever had mirrorless cameras, other than like the few point issues that I've had. And outside of Sony, the only other manufacturer I've ever used is Samsung. So it's like I've been Samsung and Sony. So that's kind of what I know. Um, Although I do have a Fuji point and shoot, so like that's kind of cool. What I would recommend is just the lenses are the only things that matter. So if you're looking to get
Yeah.
into a new camera, and it's only going to just sit on your desk, I would actually recommend a Panasonic. I think it's the S5X or something like that. It's the new one, and it's about $500 to $750 cheaper than the Sony A7S III, and it has full gate recording, which means that it takes advantage of the entire sensor when
Hmm.
recording. So if you want to crop for vertical, you actually have the headroom to do that, and you do it in post if you like.
Hmm. I like that.
The only issue is
Panasonic.
the lenses, right? Like that's
Yeah.
that's the issue, right? So the lenses is what's going to make it look the way it looks. Uh, and I don't know how much of an ecosystem they have for lens support right now,
Yeah,
but
that's
it'll
fair.
it'll improve. Like Sony, it wasn't great when I first got into the system. Now it's amazing. It's just how
True.
long do you want to wait?
Yeah, I mean, just go. I'll go completely old school. We'll just go old school film, but not even like the early. Like I want to go like early, like historic giant camera that takes like dangerous carcinogenic chemicals to develop. I feel like if I'm gonna go photography, that's the route that I want to go.
Well, I would also consider the Blackmagic 4K, the Pocket Cinema 4K.
Okay, so I've heard like amazing things about Black Magic Pocket Cinema. You said?
I think it's Pocket Cinema or something like that.
Is
Like,
this like the, oh, look at that. That's a surprisingly, yeah, like I'm like black magic that I know is definitely that gigantic, like these gigantic
yeah, yeah,
black
they make
magic
larger
cameras.
ones too. Now I don't know if that one has autofocus, but if you have a lens, like a prime lens, and you set the aperture to like, I don't know, like f5 or f4 or f5.6, so long as you're in that zone, you'll be in focus. No, unless you're going to be moving around from your desk, which is unlikely.
It is very, very unlikely. Amazing. Well, I'm glad that we're back. I'm glad we were able to get this on the books last stream because I'm away next week. And I wanted to get like at least one more stream in before I disappeared. And I'm going to be doing like live streaming from Paris, but it's going to be a little bit more chaotic, a little bit less valuable.
Well, I mean, that
Maybe
makes
not.
sense. Like that's a huge difference, time difference.
Yeah.
It makes a difference
Yes,
though.
it does. Yeah, it's fun. I last week was a bit of a chaotic week for us, so we had to ship all of our conference supplies to Paris, and we ended up having a bunch of let's call it unfortunate shipping experiences that resulted in me having to be up very, very early to call Paris. And I didn't realize the time difference until I realized the time difference. It was rough. It was rough, but we got it all sorted. All of our stuff is there. I don't even want to know how much it's going to cost for the handling that happens with these conference events. It was like $1,000 to ship everything over, and I have a feeling it'll be at least that for them to move it from their storage warehouse into where we're actually going to be using it at the venue. But c'est la vie, the joys of
That doesn't
international
sound fun. Like
conferences.
it doesn't
It
sound
is
fun.
not fun. I am not a logistics person. This is not a thing that I ever thought that I would have to deal with. And yet here we are. Here we were last week. I was on the phone with like customs in Canada and like UPS and all of the people trying to get this sorted out. But it'll all be worth it in the end. Did I have I told you what our conference booth is going to look like?
No, do
I
you
feel
have
like
an image or
I
something?
I do. I got an image. I'm gonna pull up a screen share. Let me get this stuff off.
Well,
Uh,
share it in. Well, actually, we'll figure out.
yeah,
I'll
we
figure out how
haven't
to get
figured.
it online.
All right, we'll figure this out. I'm gonna move us over to here, and then I'm gonna do a screen share on this window over here. This does not matter for you in any way, shape, or form. I'm just figuring out which window I'm gonna share screen. I'm probably gonna move this afterwards. Actually, I've changed my mind. It's gonna take me another minute. I was like, I'm gonna share here, and then I changed my mind. I was gonna share somewhere else. All right, over here. Now, share, present, share screen, entire screen, this screen. I got rid of one of my screens for today.
All right, all right, all right. Give
All
me a
right, are we
second now.
here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
give me a second. I have to do the screen share on my end now. Uh, but I don't have a screen share with a guest, or do I?
I don't know.
I don't. Okay. All right. All right. But we're looking at your screen now, so it's fine.
We are, and we're looking at this Black Magic Camp, which actually isn't that bad for 849. No, we're gonna go over to we'll go over to our Twitter. Look at that. Look at us. We're live. Okay. So this is our booth that we're actually having for the event. I don't know. Can people see it on your stream? I have
I
no
just see
idea.
like a black box.
You just see a black
Well, no,
box.
I
Okay,
see
let
like
me.
stop playing dungeons and deployments. I see that. But then on the
Oh, and
right, adjacent to it, it's a like a gray box.
this one right here, the
Yeah.
one that's like underneath. Yeah, yeah. So that's a TV. So basically, we have like slides
Oh,
that'll be
okay,
playing on that
okay.
one. Yeah, yeah. So like this is a booth, and then I think I've got a 3D. Like there's like a 3D mock-up that I shared a few weeks ago. Where is it hiding?
So do you have to ship the scaffolding and all of that other stuff too?
No, so we were lucky. We didn't have to ship any of that. That all comes and they print the design on a goodness. I didn't realize it's been this long since I shared that graphic. I've been doing a bunch of stuff. Where's it hiding? Oh man. Anyways, but yeah, that's what it looks like. And then so basically this is the backdrop, and then there's this is like the stand where we'll be sitting, and so anyway, so this is the back stand, but we're actually building Do you play Dungeons and Dragons, or have you ever played it before?
I've never played it, but I have seen or heard of it on TV.
Okay,
How about that?
so we did this campaign with Jason Langsdorf, where we went down to Seattle and we filmed like this developer commercial. Like, highly recommend. It's like really fun to watch. And it was all around like stop playing Dungeons and Deployments and start shipping software, use feature flags type stuff. So for this event, we actually ended up getting custom dice made up. So those I think I shared more recently. Where are they? Yeah, so we got some socks made up, because who doesn't get socks made up? But then the big thing was we got these custom dice made up. And so like 20 is the highest number on there that normally you can get. And so we replaced it with this little DevCycle logo. But then at the booth itself, we actually purchased 400 of these building blocks. And basically we're building like a giant dice tower. Do you know what a dice tower is? Have you heard of this
I
before?
have not. I don't. I've never heard of it, and I
So
don't know what it
dice,
is.
yeah. So dice tower so they're kind of like these. Yeah, here's like a good example of one. So basically the idea is, if you want to randomize your dice rolling a little bit more, you
Mhm.
basically like drop it in the top of the tower, and then it'll just like make it spin a little bit more as it goes down, and then it comes out in this bottom section here. So we bought these blocks to basically build our own dice tower there, and then we purchased these dark elf dice, these giant foam D20s. So this is like a life size D20. Normally these are like the size of a small
Are you
die.
going to throw them at people?
No, so
No,
well,
you haven't
we
thought
are
about
go
it.
we have not thought. We bought a second one. Yeah, just an ultimate game of dodgeball at this conference. No, but they're gonna drop in, and then basically like whatever number they roll, they land on will correspond with the swag item that they get.
Gotcha.
So like most of them will be stickers, and then some of the higher numbers will be like dice and other stuff. And then at the like very top, we bought some like actual dice sets that we're going to be giving away. But yeah, but anyway, so we had to ship all this stuff. Like these are not that obviously. So we had to ship 2 of these dice. We had to ship like the tower stuff. And then of course all of our other swag, like the custom dice and all the rest of it. So it was quite the adventure to get all of this stuff over there, but it should be fun. I
Yeah,
think I
it
think this
sounds
will
like
be
a lot.
fun. It's a lot. It was a lot to plan, but I was like, we did a conference. We were in Chicago for this event in November, and we bought a mini claw machine. Um, yeah, so we bought like this mini claw machine for that event. And basically, people that came to the booth, if they wanted a piece of swag, they had to like play this claw game. And we're like, this is awesome. We'll use this for all of our conferences. But we used it once and realized like we probably can't use this again. And so this is now in our office, and it didn't necessarily fit for this theme. So now we've just set ourselves up of every time we need to do like some kind of like intense thing,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of fun. Like I'm kind of okay with it.
I'm curious.
Uh,
Like now that I know that you have one of these, because I've always thought these were rigged. Can you
they
act?
are.
Can you? Okay, so you can't actually win. So did you have
So
to
you
rig it so that you can win?
so we had to rig it actually. Like the default setting was to allow for you to win most of the time, and then basically there's like a little it's basically like a Raspberry Pi unit inside where you could like change the claw voltage that controls the strength. And so what we ended up doing was like day one of the conference, because we didn't want to run out of swag, we set it so the claw was really weak. So every time somebody picked something up, it would like fall. And then we got to like day two, and we had it like half the day it was like that. And we were like, oh, this is amazing. And then we realized that we had like all of this swag that we needed to give away. So we basically had to like crank up the voltage. So every time somebody went into the machine, somebody won. But I'd gone like really intense, and I created like little tokens that had prizes on them. And it was ridiculous to manage. Like it was just an absolute gong show. It was fun though. Like people loved it. They absolutely loved when they dropped by. Um, yeah, but now and it's kind of cool now. Like this sits in our office in Toronto, so like there's a there's like this cool claw machine that we like customized and put like the DevCycle logo and stuff onto. So
So now, like, all right, now that you told me this story here, I have the ultimate project.
all right, what's the ultimate project?
We integrate DevCycle into the claw machine so that so that like you can conditionally like make it to where people can win or not win.
So one of our platform engineers, as soon as we bought this, that was like the first thing that he said. He's like, I'm gonna rip out the internals. We're gonna get like some sort of a microcontroller in there controlled by DevCycle. And I was like, that is such an engineer thing to do. Like you get it, and it's immediately like we're gonna destroy this and make it our own. It hasn't happened yet though, so I'm kind of disappointed. Jamie, if you're watching the stream,
Call
now
out.
is the moment. It's time. This is the moment. I think he's traveling, but when you get back, it's the moment.
Yeah, that's actually kind
But
of cool.
they're super cheap though. Like this is like $600 Canadian, so like $400 US for like, and um, it's like a fairly decent size. Like it's you could, if you had like a small arcade and you put one of these in there, people wouldn't question it. Um, but yeah, it was fun. And anyways, so that was our shipping adventure last week. And then next week is at the conference. So I'm
So
glad we were able to slide this
when you
in.
get there, you have to then assemble all of these things.
We do. We've actually got so while most other people will be showing up on the Wednesday morning of this conference when everything starts, we are going to be arriving on Monday afternoon, and on Tuesday all day we are going to be like these little kids building with these blocks. And then we've got to do it in such a way that we can take it down at the end, because we can't take anything back to Canada with us. We said that everything that goes to Europe is staying in Europe just as part of like the importing stuff. So everything has to actually stay there. So then we've got to tear this down, and we're basically we're going to give away these blocks, these 2 block sets at the end of the conference.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of things to deal with.
It's a lot of things to deal with. I'm glad that it's like 8 of us that are going. So I'll be glad in 2 weeks when I can breathe and the event is over.
Well, good luck to you.
But it's good, you know what? And it's crazy, like the number. Thank you, I appreciate that. But we got the numbers today. We got an email about this, and so they're expecting 12,000 in-person people at this event.
Wow, like oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I don't
this
know
is
if I've
like,
ever been to a conference that large. I don't even,
no,
well, what? Wow. Okay. All right.
yeah,
It's
I
just
know.
like a
Well,
week
this
long, or is
it's
it?
so it's like 3 days, but so it runs. It, so this is, do you know that like Linux Foundation? That's a thing that has come into your sphere in the past, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know of it.
So like Linux Foundation, this is like KubeCon Cloud Native Con, which is like their big conference that they run every year, and they do 2 of them, one in North America and one in Europe. And so there's like a bunch of like kind of, I think they call them like anyways, they're co-located events. So basically it's like these kind of sub events that are happening on the Tuesday, and there's like, I don't know, 10 of them. So there's like things like um yeah, for the different pathways. And then the core conference itself is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So yeah, it's gonna be big though. Like the Chicago one was big, and there was only like 4,000 people there, and we were like, oh, this was a big conference. So we are pretty, yeah. They'd said previously that it would be 10,000. I was like, there's no way 10,000 people are coming to this conference. And then they returned with 12, and I was like, whew, I hope we got enough swag. I'm glad we have this like tool to like stop people from getting too much swag.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous amount of people.
It is, and it's in Paris. So it's going to be, and like most of the folks that are there are from North America. So it's going to be this massive conference full of people that don't speak the language, which I feel is going to only end well. Only end well.
Well, yeah,
Chicago was
well,
nice though. I had expected nothing from Chicago, and was really,
What do you
really
mean you
pleasantly
expected
surprised.
nothing from Chicago? Like,
So
wait, what?
so I will the perspective of Chicago as like major urban centers in the US as a Canadian is like you don't picture Chicago as this like city so rich in history. Like I kind of think the bean, the bear, and that's kind of it. Like it just isn't a thing that I had like there it's not that it was bad expectations, just didn't have any real expectations for what Chicago was. And it was amazing. It was such a beautiful city, amazing public transit, spectacular food, friendly people, like such a great city. I would go back to Chicago in a heartbeat. But I was kind of glad going in with no expectations. Why does that surprise you so much?
It's just interesting that like to have no expectations of like the world's or at least America's third largest city. It's like one of the richest cities. One of the cities that like it was the second New York. It's like the New York of the Midwest.
I believe it. And like honestly, from everything that I've heard about New York, I'd much rather go to Chicago. Like
Oh, you haven't been
having
to New
not
York yet?
I I've been to New York State. I like grew up just north of New York State, but like upper New York State is definitely not New York
You
City.
know, it's not the same.
Um, but no, so never been. I think biggest American cities that I have done. I did LA, but only through LAX on my way to Pasadena. Um, Obviously Seattle, because that's kind of the place to go in PNW. Portland. Um, I actually have not really been to like very many major metropolitan centers
Well, you've
in the
been to
US.
more than I have, like for Canada. I've never been to Canada. So it's like you've been to more cities in America than I've been to cities in Canada.
You got to get to Canada, Will. What's stopping you from making the trip north?
Me and the North don't really go hand. It's cold up there. I don't even go to the North that often here in America.
That's
Uh,
fair.
but like, I guess it's. I mean, America's large, not just East West like Canada, but also like North South. Canada is large North South as well, but there's nothing
True.
in the North, so like no one goes up there. So,
True. There are
so
many things between where you are and Canada. That is very true.
yeah, so it's like I've never thought like, oh yeah, let me go to Canada. But I don't know, I'll go. I've always looked at it as like America. I don't. I know there's a difference. I'm sure there's a difference, but to me, I'm just
I
like
think
y'all are
le-
just American to me.
I think less so. I think the difference is definitely like there's much less difference now than I think there was many years ago. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you've been to like New York and you go to Toronto, you'll be like, yeah, this has a similar vibe. Vancouver, kind of a similar vibe to Seattle. So like just like look at the closest major metropolitan center and you've kind of got the similarity in Canada. But your dollar goes a lot further. That's the one
Oh
upside
yeah,
is your
I've seen
dollar
that.
goes a lot
Yeah,
further.
I've seen that. Yeah, I don't know. I'll go. I'm going one day. I was looking for the Alaska trip that I said that I would do, and I
Yeah.
did look from Victoria Island. I think that's the
Yeah,
no,
yeah. Yeah, Vancouver Island. Yeah,
oh,
from
Vancouver
Victoria. Yeah.
Island. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Nigeria.
No, no.
Yeah. I did look from there, so we'll see. It's yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things go.
It's all right.
But
One day you'll happen to find yourself in Canada and you'll not even know. You'll just be like your plane will be grounded in Toronto and you'll be forced to go and explore.
I'll go there one day. Like yeah, I've wanted to, I had an opportunity to go when I was younger, when I was in high school, and I ended up not going. It was for the French language foreign exchange program.
Oh, to like Quebec City or
Yeah,
Montreal or something.
yeah, I think it was to I think it was Quebec.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember. But yeah, I ended up not going because it cost too much money. Like it wasn't free, so it's just
No.
like okay, well, I guess I can't go. But but yeah, I've wanted to go. I've wanted to go.
See, I now the more that we have streamed together, the more and more that I want to actually go a little bit further south. I feel like I'm not getting the true taste of America. by only staying in like the northernmost area of the country. Like I really have not experienced so much of the parts of America that are like the quintessential experiences.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
it's
oh, I've been
different.
to Vegas. Like I've done Vegas, so I feel like I did that.
Vegas is touristy though.
It's very
It's not really
touristy.
like, I mean, it is America in the fakeness aspect of it,
Yeah.
where it's just like everything commercial. It's that. It's but yeah, the South is very different from the North. The
Yeah.
West is very different from everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. All of the states are very different. It's like the United States are they're equivalent. You can think of them as countries or maybe provinces. That's the closest analog you have.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you for Canadianizing that for me. How many states have you been to?
42.
Why not all 50? Is it 52 or 50?
They're
How many
50.
states? There's
50.
only 50 states, so you're almost there. Why not the last 8?
Well, one of them, well, two of them are like, in the past, they aren't places that I would easily be able to go to, like Alaska or
Yeah,
Hawaii.
fair.
They're not
Fair.
part of the whatever. Never been
Yeah.
to the Dakotas, like
None of the
North.
Dakotas.
Neither one.
Not north or south.
Nah. And I've never been north of Massachusetts. And like all that region, like all of that New England region, like a lot of those places I haven't been. I don't even know the names of the states, to be honest.
What about Puerto Rico?
Never been to Puerto Rico, but I mean, I've had a lot of Puerto Rican food in San Antonio.
There we go.
But it's
So you're
technically
like
not a
you're
state. It's a territory.
true.
They haven't been admitted into the union for whatever reason.
Interesting.
I think
Interesting.
they have. I think it's their choice, right? I don't think we get a say. I think if they decide to join the union, they can. But then it's like yeah. Right now they get all the benefits, which is great for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you want to pay? And I feel like there's probably like some tax things that you would have to deal with.
No, I think they pay taxes. I think they pay taxes. It's other things that they don't have to worry about, I guess.
Yeah. We have a similar thing like because there's like the provinces and territories in Canada, and all the territories are in the north. And I'm not actually sure the difference between being a territory and being a province in Canada. I actually have zero understanding of the difference between those two.
Well, hopefully it's not a bad thing. Hopefully.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I feel like it's just like the nature of how they came, and or maybe it was like stage 1.
I don't know. I don't. To be honest, I don't know much about our territories either. I know we have a few, especially in the APAC region,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we have some de facto. I don't know if it's a bad word these days, but we have some de facto colonies, which they were former. They're
Yeah.
not technically colonies, but for all intents and purposes, they seem to be that. And as far as I understand, like they kind of have a lot of, I don't know, autonomy to do whatever it is that they want. So I've kind of just assumed that they were all kind of independent for the most part, except we get the rights to have our military there and to go there whenever we want.
There you go. That's the plus. I discovered today there's a thing called have you ever heard of this? The Schengen area of Europe. You heard that term
Yeah,
before?
yeah.
I
The
see. I'd
Shenzhen, isn't that like the Irish or something?
uh I I don't
Shenzhen.
hold on. So I was looking this up today, and so this is
Oh,
uh
The Schengen one.
is that what it is? Schengen. That makes a lot more sense. But yeah, and it's cool. Like I had no idea that these were areas that, like, if you're from North America, you're able to travel here to these locations without a visa, which is rather interesting. Maybe not all, maybe it's just Canada, but I think it's the US too.
Yeah, I think it would be Canada too. And that's for the EU countries, right? Like it's yeah. And that's
Yeah.
because you don't need you have freedom of movement. At least the
Yeah.
Europeans do within there. And a lot of countries we can go to, we don't need visas. I
Yeah.
imagine that's
Same.
the same for you as well.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. Actually, I had a student. I had a student in the school that I was teaching at last year, who was obsessed, like he loved international travel and passports. And he actually did this big research study over the course of like 2 months. All he did was focus on the differences between passport privilege in different countries and like what it means to travel between. He did this like amazing presentation where he basically talked about the systemic like issues that exist in why or that have caused some of these things to happen. So there's certain countries in, say, the Middle East where you are unable to travel to any other country without a visa, or like you require like a 6 level up, and in Africa and a lot of these other underdeveloped countries. But he looked at like the reason why that exists, and it does not paint the rest of the world in a very particular
Well, yeah,
particularly
it's something that we
positive light.
take for granted here in our
Absolutely.
part of the world is we have freedom of movement, and it's like freedom of speech, freedom of movement. Like these are things I think too many people take for granted. That like not everybody can just leave their country.
You're not
And I
wrong.
mean that, and I mean that's what I learned when I was abroad. Where it's just like, oh yeah, we can't go there. Why? It's like, well, we can't, like literally. And
Don't ask questions. We just can't.
well, I mean, we don't understand because we don't have that.
Yeah.
Like we can't even fathom. Like, what do you mean you can't leave? Like, what do you mean? So yeah. Unfortunately, yes, you're right. Most of the world is that way. And fortunately, we have decent passports. I mean, Singapore has the best passport. I think you can go anywhere visa free.
Really
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, it's like
Love that we're talking about everything but code today. I love it.
that's fine. We can talk about code too. I'm here to talk about whatever.
I'm here to just hang out. This is the joy. I feel like this is really just a DevRel hangout session. Come and talk with Will and Andrew about stuff. By the way, if you're here in chat, hello. We got some people on in your chat, Will. We got some people in mine. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here chatting all things DevRel, travel, passports, philosophy. We're going to talk etymology, some ontology today. We may touch an IDE, but only time will tell. Singapore passport. Let's see. Singapore passport is a popular target for counterfeiters. Relatively liberal visa requirements. Interesting. There you go.
194 countries and territories.
That's intense, hey? Like,
I think isn't that most? Like, aren't there
yeah, like
195 or something like
how
that?
many countries and territories are there in the world?
Here, there's 195. Yeah.
Ultimately, there's 196 countries in the world. 250. Yeah. Yeah. So that's like all but 2. I wonder what the 2 are that are missing. That's intense. What are the 2 that are missing? Yeah, this was the site that he showed me, this global passport ranking thing.
Oh, France is first. Wow, that's interesting.
I feel like they're all first.
Oh, they're
so
all
Spain,
tied.
yeah,
Okay.
Spain, Singapore, Japan, Italy, Germany, France. Where's the? I'm interested to see where United States appears on this list. Is there a search
We're down
here?
below Malaysia. Keep going. It was shortly after.
There's Canada. So Canada and US are actually in the same spot. Interesting that we're in the same area of like as like the Chechnya and is it Chechnya? Czechia? This is just Czech Republic, I think.
Czechia.
Czechia? Is that not the Czech? That's like former Czech Republic, I think.
I will not. I don't know. I don't. Eastern European stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I do not understand either. That's very interesting. I'm surprised that Canada's and the US are so far down, but it's not really that far, I suppose.
Well,
like that's most of the world.
To be fair, like there are some countries that have visa restrictions on the US as more of a tit for tat type of thing.
Yeah.
And I imagine that Mexico would probably be around where we are too.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. So it's interesting. So Canadians can't travel to Afghanistan, Algeria, Azerbaijan, Benin, Bhutan, Cameroon.
Bhutan's interesting. Oh, you could probably do a visa because I had to do a visa too.
Yeah. Cameroon, Central Africa. There's a lot of African countries that.
Most African countries actually for Americans.
Huh.
To be
Congo.
fair, and like, I mean, man, I don't know if it's. I'm saying I'm speaking for myself.
Hmm.
I've been to some of these countries. It's just like, eh, it's okay. Maybe you don't go. They're not worth going to.
Fair enough.
Some
I
of
don't
them.
know. I'd love that's an area of the world that I would actually like to visit. I feel like I've spent most of this will be about the first trip actually that I've never I've gone to a non-English speaking country. Like I've been to New Zealand, to Australia, to England, to Scotland, been to all these places, but they speak English everywhere. So I'm interested to go to somewhere that actually has a slightly different culture. Um, India, India doesn't surprise me
But
because
e visa is
Canadian,
different though. Like e
yeah.
visa is like, it's basically visa on arrival. So
Oh,
some of this,
Liberia.
like, like for Egypt, Egypt was on there, for instance.
Was it
Yeah,
really?
at least I think I saw Egypt.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. E-visa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just like with Egypt, technically you can just fly to the airport and go in line and you give them $25 and they will give you a visa, aka a stamp, and
Hmm.
just let you walk through. Same with Tunis. It's the same thing. A lot of the African countries that I went to was that. At least on the Eastern Africa, it was easy. Western Africa was a lot harder.
Yeah, Tunisia were good. Is that what you're talking about? Tunisia?
Yeah, that's one of the places. Yeah, yeah,
Goodness.
yeah. Vietnam. Oh man, I wasn't able to go to Vietnam. I got denied. I got three separate visas, and they
Hmm.
denied me each time
Really?
because yeah, yeah.
Why?
Apparently, I have a suffix in my name, like two I's, and they
Okay.
weren't there.
Really?
Uh huh.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah. So yeah, they approved the visa three times, and then they wouldn't let me board the plane from Thailand. So I have a vendetta against Vietnam right now.
Really? So you were like literally in line for the plane
Yeah,
and they were like, no, you're not getting on.
yeah, and like I did an emergency visa right there in the airport, and they approved it. And then I went back in line after spending the night in the airport, and they're like, "Yeah, we can't let you on." I'm like, "Why the hell did you approve?" Like I paid the money and
Wow.
everything.
Wow. I do hear a lot of folks in tech that are actually moving to Thailand though, because it is really inexpensive to
Well,
live there.
Thailand, yes, and it's also easy to get into. Like, you can get in on a tourist visa, and I think that lasts for 3 months. I think maybe.
Probably.
For me, I'm able to go to Singapore and stay there and work there. It's not cheap though.
No.
Excuse me.
Yeah, is it Vietnam or Thailand? I have a colleague. So I met this guy a
Both are
few
cheap
years ago.
or
Uh,
inexpensive, rather. I'm sorry.
yeah, I had a colleague a number of years ago. What's his name? I'm trying to find him because I feel like it'll just be interesting for stream because this guy has got a really interesting pathway. So he's a teacher, but he was living in it was either Thailand or Vietnam, and he ended up coming back and he became like a kind of a stand-up comedian, but now he's a wrestler, like a professional wrestler in that area of the world. Oh god, I need to find him because his profile is just absolutely hilarious. Where
I
is he
did
hiding?
consider doing like actually training for real Muay Thai when I was in Thailand. I was like, oh, maybe I can come back here because they have a education visa where you could do Muay Thai and you can stay there for I think it's up to a year or two, and so long as you're doing like training. So I was like, oh, maybe I'd come here and I do that, and then like I do my work. I get to stay and live here in the
Interesting.
countryside. Not in Bangkok. That's too much of a city for me. Like Chiang Mai or maybe yeah, probably Chiang Mai. If I'm being honest.
All right, I found him. See if I can get his Tom Crusader. Oh, I guess I got to go to Instagram. Can you view Instagram without being logged in? Instagram.
That is, we'll find out.
We'll find out together. Tom Cruisader. Here he is. Yeah. So like this guy, I think he's Carry something, but so he so he's in Vietnam. It is Vietnam. I was right. But yeah, he's a teacher and he was doing like stand-up comedy, and now he like has moved back to Vietnam and he's like building out their pro wrestling program that's there. And it's just absolutely, it's so fun. It's so fun to watch his stuff because it's like he has definitely made the right career choice for him. But also, like, he got Chris Jericho, who's a pretty famous wrestler, like involved with it. So I don't know, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool.
It is
And
kind of
there's a
cool.
lot of opportunity for stuff like that abroad. It's just like,
Yeah,
when people who come here abroad, like there are things that they have there in their home country that we don't have because, for one, like either we don't have those problems, or I don't know, whatever reason, we may not have the same things. It goes both ways, right? When I went to some of these places, it was very interesting how I was able to easily see certain opportunities because they don't have it there, right? And things that we take for granted that you think everyone has, especially services, they're not there.
like what? Like what
An
specific service?
example, for instance, with real estate, for instance,
Okay.
if you wanted to, like for you, if you're looking for a new house, you're probably going to look at a virtual tour, like a 3D virtual tour,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a Matter House, Matterport, or whatever they're called.
yeah.
And you may expect that. However, if you go to, let's say you're looking for places in Vietnam, what's the likelihood that you're going to have that? Is normally quite low. Or let's say you're looking at Singapore, which is the case for me. It's unlikely you'll get photos like this, which is all well and good. It always shows you this, and it's always fun because they always show you the building and the surrounding area and the third
Yeah.
spaces. Very rarely do they show you your actual room, which is tiny.
Interesting. Yeah, the last photo, not even a photo.
A lot of
Fascinating.
times they will, at least I don't know for Vietnam. I can't speak for Vietnam. I can only speak for areas that I've considered buying a house in. In Singapore, they always will put a picture of themselves. Like that's part of the thing. Like it's not just
I
the
kind of
things
like
that
that.
matter. It's just like here's a picture of me. It's just like I
I
don't care
ca-
what you look like.
I don't know. I kind of like that. I think that's fun. Good
It's
for
kind of
them.
like in certain countries how they put their picture on their resume, and they put
Yes.
their marriage status, and they put their. It's just like it's a cultural thing. I get it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
There's some interesting things though, but yeah, I mean, I think this is gonna be it's gonna be a good trip. There's 8 of us going from all across the country, so including our CEO and our CTO. So we're gonna go and we're gonna rock this event. And we get to hang out with some of our friends from there's like this new initiative in the feature flagging world called Open Feature, which is kind of like the open telemetry. It's like the new kind of standard in feature flagging. And so we've gotten pretty involved. Our CTO joined their governance committee recently, so we're going to hang out with them, and we're sponsoring an event that they're running, like a hackathon type event there. Yeah, should be good. Should
That's
be.
interesting. Open feature. That's new. So
Yeah, have you never heard of them before?
no, no.
It's an interest. It's just a spec, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just a spec for feature flagging,
Okay.
but the way that it works is kind of fascinating. So I wonder if do they have a good, yeah. So like this is sort of how they've set things up. So if you are a feature flag provider, like say DevCycle, right now, if somebody uses DevCycle feature flags, they're fundamentally different to any other implementation of feature flags. So like if you're using Launch Darkly or Flagsmith or any of these other ones, historically, they've been they've been totally on their own. And so basically this got started, this initiative, to ensure that there's like a common language between feature flags. And then the implementation is now, as a feature flag provider like DevCycle, you if somebody wants to use open feature, then they would install the open feature SDK. Then they would install your provider that you create as like whatever the company is, that allows for you to translate all of your stuff into the open feature kind of language. And then what this really means is that you're no longer locked into a specific feature flag vendor. Actually, I did a post on this.
So it's more than just an interface. It's an interface that also comes along with implementation. It's a framework that will call, I guess, your code, whoever they decide to use as a provider.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like a plugin type of deal,
kind
and
of.
you learn the open feature, whatever the thing, API instead of your custom API. Is that kind of?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So like here's yeah, like here's an example. Let me pull this up because this is kind of cool actually. Because we've been building out all of these. I don't want to look at that one. I want to go to DevCycle HQ. DevCycle HQ labs. Come on. Oh, I gotta do some auth stuff. All right. So let me pull up the view example. And then I think I got another view example. View. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so like here's the view implementation with DevCycle, where basically you're going in and you're pulling in the DevCycle like web SDK. You're grabbing the client SDK key from your environment file. You're initializing DevCycle using that SDK key. You're feeding in some user information into there, and then you're establishing that client that way. And then inside your application, does it show up in here? I think it's in main. No, where is it? Components. There we go. So like inside your actual components, say, so here's where you're going, like with your client that you've established with DevCycle, you would have to say you want to get the variable value for whatever your variable key is. Or if you were doing Boolean logic, you would still be kind of saying DevCycle client variable value. So that's the DevCycle way, is like we basically said, like with our client, you're going to have to like go and use this variable value hook to get your whatever the true false string JSON is. With open feature, it's slightly different. So you still need that SDK key that you're pulling in, but instead of sort of just setting up the DevCycle client, you're setting up the DevCycle provider using that key and the options, and then you're setting up the open feature client, and then you're using the open feature client within your application, which looks similar but slightly different. So like instead of doing that variable value within their API, within their SDK, you're actually specifically calling like get string value or get Boolean value. So it's like these subtle changes that exist between the two implementations. But the cool thing is with this implementation of using this open standard, the ability to plug in your own like a different provider. So I did this with that Vue.js app. So literally all that I needed to do to change. So this was the original implementation in that application. So I basically like grabbed the SDK key, I set up the DevCycle provider, and then I did these context things here. And so I wanted to change to a different provider. And so I set up another open source provider that was there. And it was like slight change here. And then there was like a slight revision within this section. But like overall in this entire thing, it was like 20 lines of code that I had to change to use a new provider. And that was including like all of the documentation, everything else that I did. So same application, different provider, and like 20 lines of code, which I thought, yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. So this is like this is a thing. And so we're pretty excited that we're going to be there. And then we're sponsoring, we're sponsoring their, I think they call it Contrib Fest. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. They're doing some pretty awesome stuff. They just got into incubating status, which is like the second stage of the CNCF progression. And so hopefully that means that this is going to kind of become the de facto standard for feature flagging out there. But they actually list so basically, if you want to know like who's who in the feature flagging space, you can kind of see it's basically anybody that has created a provider that's listed as a vendor are kind of the heaviest hitters that are in this space. So like Flagsmith, Flipped, Featbit, DevCycle, ConfigCat, like all of these are the people that are people to know in that space.
Seems like it makes it easier for people to switch off of your platform.
It does. Absolutely, it does. You know what? It's wild because I think if it makes it easier for people to leave DevCycle,
they can always come back.
they can always come back, but also like our goal, and I mean, maybe this is altruistic, is like more people doing feature flagging. And eventually they're going to figure out that we've got some features that other players don't. So, like, if they start implementing open feature, then they can go and explore Cloud Bees or they can explore Config Cat. And then if they want to come back to us, it's like a couple like line changes in their code, which I think makes it actually easier and lets you go and kind of play the field, right? You can go and see what's out there and what you actually care about and what you actually want. And then you can come back. But to be honest with you, like I was shocked. Like I'd never played around. I was playing around with this Feetbit software, which is like I think it's just like a single guy living in the valley that's building this out. But their onboarding process is freaking amazing. Like one click spins up an ephemeral feature flagging ecosystem that stays with your device as long as you don't clear your cookies. And like their getting started process to use a feature flag is just like super, super smooth, gives you everything you need. Yeah, I was like super blown away by how fast this was to get spinning.
And you said
And
that a single person is building this?
I think so. Like, so I found this guy on Twitter. What's his name? Real Feetbit. So like when you look up Feetbit, it's literally just Bo Hugh. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's just this
Oh
guy
yeah,
that's
can you go to
building
the
it out.
GitHub, the Feetbit? He's in Paris. Maybe you should link up with him when you're
So
there.
I did. I messaged. So when I published that article where I switched providers, I switched to Feetbit. But I guess he's part time in Paris and part time in China, and he's in China right now.
Mm.
But yeah, let's go in here and let's actually go in here and look. That's a good point. I mean, there's definitely a few more than just him contributing, but it's not a huge number. I don't think this is an entire company.
No, it could be contractors, maybe.
But like one or two people doing the majority of the work in here.
Right.
Anyways,
That's,
it's a very cool project. Like I'm super impressed by it.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's built in .NET too. At least it makes
Right?
it look like it.
What is built in .NET in 2012? There's probably a lot of things built in .NET, but
A lot.
you don't. I feel like it's not a sexy language though. Like it's not
Well,
something that people are like,
the
ooh,
.NET's the framework, but C like there are multiple languages you could use with the framework. Like there's F sharp if you want to get your functional on. You could use C sharp. You could use Python. You could use I think there are JavaScript bindings for .NET as well now.
really? I
Yeah,
thought .NET was.
it's basic. You could use Visual Basic.
There you go. Use Visual Basic. That's
Yeah, get your
that's a
dim on.
callback.
You don't like you don't like defining your variables uh,
God, I
as
have
dim.
not. I didn't even realize Visual Basic still existed.
Yeah, yeah, it's really
That's
popular actually.
really.
Yeah.
I remember doing this exact project in high school. Was like building it was the one programming class that I ever took, and it was so poorly delivered
So
that I
that's win forms right there. So back in the day, you can also so Microsoft always have these different UI technologies they iterate on every 3 or 4 years. Back then, it was something called win forms, and the way that you could build your UI was using Visual Basic or any of the other languages. But most people would use Visual Basic, and that's the one where you could like put a button on the thing, and then you can like right click on it, and then do code behind, and you can like
yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, this was my first experience to programming, and it was the experience that made me say I will never program again. I was like, this is not a good
I had the
experience.
exact opposite because I had been programming for a few years before I took my high school computer science class. The second one of them, I think it was AP1, we learned Visual Basic, and that was the first time where I had a user interface. And like I could just like click on things and just like put a snippet of code and get it to do something. Whereas before I would have to write everything myself. So like in my mind, I thought that's what you have to do. So when I wrote my game, for instance, there was a lot of things that I was having to do myself, and I was just like, man, like I don't know if I like this. And then I learned Visual Basic, and it's like, oh, I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is like right click. Not even that. I drag the button there. I don't have to do math, right? Because with rendering stuff that I was doing, like you have to know the coordinate that it needs to be rendered, the size of the thing, the color of the thing, and like it's just too much effort.
That's a
But
lot.
yeah, nowadays if I had to even like ChatGPT, that's my programming now. I just put in
I'm with you.
ChatGPT.
100%. I know we talked AI last time, but I do think that like there's something there for getting you, if you know what you're doing with it. Um, did I share this with you last time that like a friend of mine is building an AI startup for professors, and basically he described it best as um being your like a TA. It's like a virtual TA. Like you need to check everything over because sometimes TAs don't get things right. Um, but like the idea of like the co-pilot that GitHub has really rolled out is like I'm with you 100%. 100%. But you're also leveling it up because are you doing all your UI stuff using the thing that we looked at a little while ago?
What did we look
That
at?
like the one that you like draw and then it turns it into the.
Oh, I haven't. So I haven't been working on UI in a while.
Okay.
I decided to go ahead and like implement my GitHub app, and
Okay.
that changed certain security things, and then that's changing how I'm like I did a database change. So there's basically I'm still working to get all of that working, so I can then go back to actually. But the goal was to not build any UI. I'm leaning heavily on Slack for most of this, as well as just having automated things.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
fair.
if we talked since last time. I've kind of settled on doing natural language video search within videos. So,
Oh,
say for instance, we do these streams. We don't really
yeah,
know what
yeah,
we're talking about half the time, but
yeah,
that's okay
yeah.
because we can have it. You just ask, and it would tell us, or it'll take you to the point in the video where you're talking about whatever it is that you say in your query.
I
And
love that.
so yeah, that's kind of where I'm heading now.
That's a great idea. I love that. And also I feel like it's very relevant. What did I Oh, you know what? It's so funny. So I did a podcast recently, uh, and it's similar but different. Let me find my hold on.
Oh, that's you.
That is me. So I built this a little while ago. Like I was like tired of I had like a website that I designed like this off of like a GitHub template, and I was like, oh, this is cool, but like I'd like to be able to update it without having to like do a PR. And so I just like built it out. I wanted to play around with some stuff, so I built out like an alternative. But it's become one, those projects that become like just massive projects. Like they're simple, but then you make them complicated.
Well, yeah,
This
that's what
is
I'm dealing with now.
right. Like, so I love this, and I built it as like an alternative to Linktree.
Yeah, I
And the
was gonna say,
difference
I'm
here
like,
was that,
yeah, I could use this for Linktree.
right. So but here's the cool thing, so I'll show you this. So the cool thing with this is that you and I'll log in off screen, but the cool thing is that you can do multiple pages. So whereas with Linktree you would have to, yeah, I think I gotta log in. Right. um It's a bit slow. Oh, there we go. All right. So let's pull this up here. All right. Let's get my email. Come on. Where are you, email? There we go. A one-time pin, 422599. Oh, what? That's a bug. Uh-oh. That might be a bad bug. People can't log in. How are they going to get access to the platform? Whoops. All right, let's try this again. Oh yeah, it looks like it's working this time. Yeah, so like unlike with Linktree, where you're like one account for one page, here you basically can have like multiple pages. And then because it was designed for the classroom, the idea here was that for every page that you have, like you can basically have in the um, the like public view, you can turn it into a short code. So you basically, every link that you get becomes a short code that you can just send out to people. So you're like, oh, I want to get people to come to this page. You can just send them out this like super short code that they can then use to go and get there. Anyways, I wasn't here to hype up my stuff. But
No, it's
now,
cool. I like it. We
but
should
now
talk
this
more
is,
about it.
so now this is turned into, have you heard of Raindrop before?
Mm-mm.
So Raindrop is a bookmark manager. And it's absolutely fantastic. And basically it's like you have like nested folders and then bookmarks in those folders. So anyways, I saw this and I was like, I love this idea. And I'd love for there to be an easier way for you to manage and drag and drop links. So now I've gone from like this setup where I've got like the whole you have to kind of navigate to each page to add and change links. And I'm trying to get it all into a central dashboard. And it's been a minute. It's been a minute of trying to explore that. But that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about, I wanted to go there because edulinks.com.
Just out of curiosity, why don't we add features to your project?
I don't know. I feel like it's probably one of those same things with you. Like this is the thing that I do on the side when I'm not doing DevCycle stuff. So yeah. But anyways, the thing that I wanted to show you was conferences, podcasts. It was the Vox Gig podcast. So I did this podcast with Vox Gig, and they've now added this hive mind thing where basically you can be like, I talked a lot in my my podcast about streaming. Tell me who talks about live streaming. I think it might find that I'm in there.
I think this is doing what this is currently where I am right now, where I can tell you this. I can't do anything more than that.
Is live streaming a good practice? Yeah, so it can't even actually find the exact location, but I think it should find. Yeah, so this is all from the podcast that I did, and it basically took my stuff and consolidated it into some answers. So this is where you're at with the app that you're building right now.
Yeah, this is currently what I can do. I don't have a UI
Nice.
for it, but like you can do an API request. It'll give you this. That wasn't good enough for me because I wanted I want to get the video. I just want to like do a search with some random, because normally I don't know what I want.
Yeah,
like most people. So it's just I want to be able to put the most random thing in a text box and have it come back with a result, and I click it and it takes me to a place where it maybe is hopefully is relevant to what I'm talking about.
I think that's fantastic. I would use that tool in a heartbeat.
Yeah, well, the building part that's hard. I had some ideas about potential routes that I can take. Right now, I'm doing everything locally. Obviously, I don't want to run a server where people have to upload a bunch of stuff, but maybe that's the way that I have to do it, where it's like it's just a is it RMTP? What's the protocol for streaming? Is it RTMP?
I think it's R. I think you had it right the first time. I think it's RMTP. Yeah, real time messaging protocol.
Okay, RTMP. Okay, yeah. So like basically spin up a server like that can ingest like a live stream like what we're doing, and then it's doing all of this in real time, like the transcription, the summarization, creating the vectors, and like putting it in a database or whatever. That way we can go retrieve. Yeah, but it's not as much. I mean, like to use Whisper on something like this, it's a single thread. It's fairly well understood now, so there's hardware to optimize this. Whisper CPP, look up that. So this is an implementation of OpenAI's Whisper model, which is open source. They released a paper years ago, and obviously this has been here years as well. And it's fast. I mean, it's fast. You can
interesting.
Yeah, the only issue with this is that it only works with WAV format because it needs to convert everything to PCM first. So I mean, that's here, right? Like you could take an MP3 and then expand it out to become a WAV, but it's a very inefficient thing to store. So it's stuff like this where it's like if I did spin on my own thing, obviously I wouldn't want to have a requirement where they had to send me WAV, and I don't know if I want to like expand that stuff out on the server because that takes up a lot of memory, because it could be 3, 4, 5 gigabytes of audio information. Oh, there's a lot of things to figure out, but this is one of the many things that I'm using to build out my little solution.
I love that. That's awesome. Are you going to monetize it, or is it just like a fun thing for you?
Initially, it was just for me. Maybe I don't know. To monetize is that's not. Man, maybe this needs to be talked about. Like, to monetize a product is harder than it sounds, and I'm not talking about just getting someone to pay. I mean, like, actually, like, building in the ability to take payments. It's
I agree.
not straightforward. At least it's never been for me. Like, building out entitlements to make sure that, like, say for instance, if you want to have certain features that are only available on a certain plan or whatever, like, you have to build out entitlements, and
Yeah.
that's effort. It's yeah.
So
Are
so
you
I do
using
all my
Stripe or are
I
you?
do all my I do all my development for my personal projects in Laravel, and so they released like a first class package called Spark, and so it's like a pretty like cheap deal considering what you get. But basically, this gives you all of the integrations that you need, and you can use like Paddle. I think there's like 3 different platforms you can use, but it basically gives you all of the uh, middleware and all of the configs and plan setup stuff. So you can basically like in your code, like it literally gives you the methods that you can use to be like, oh, if they're on trial, I want them to see this, or how long does their trial period start. It's got like a great it automatically sets up webhooks to communicate back and forth with whatever system you're using. um, it's fantastic. Like, this has been a game changer. It took me a day, on like not a full day, but like it took me like one day of just going into this to get it set up. And like the only issue I ran into, the only issue was I upgraded to a new version accidentally, and then it broke the payments, but it was super smooth, integrates really well, gives you the basic UI, and like even to the point of, I wonder if I can see it in mine. So I might have logged out already. No, I didn't log out. Um, yeah, so like this subscription page is, ooh, she's slow. Like, this is all built in with that package. You can like change your subscription plan, add coupons, you get like all the invoices that you've done. Like, all of this is all built into the Spark setup that you get. But then that Spark is built on top of Laravel Cashier. And they also have like all of this logic that you can tap into by basically just putting like traits onto your models. It's, anyways, I agree. I've heard the same thing, but like I love the ecosystem that has popped up around Laravel for doing some of these things.
Yeah, it's nice. Like, it's honestly, it's a breath of fresh air. I've been in the JavaScript ecosystem for a few years now, and as far as I know, we don't really have anything like that, which is unfortunate. Back when I was doing .NET stuff, we had more like stuff like more turnkey solutions, because a lot of people's problems fall into the same types of categories. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, which we do a lot of, unfortunately, in
Exactly.
web.
Well, and like it's interesting too, right? So you talk about these turnkey solutions. Like, basically what the Laravel team decided was, yeah, all of these things, right, that everybody's going to need, even like you talk about feature flagging in these apps. So like they came out with like a lightweight library that's like a first class citizen within their ecosystem to integrate feature flags into your
Is it
application.
open feature compliant?
It is not open feature compliant.
Is this open
But
source? Is Laravel open source? Maybe you
oh yeah,
should
yeah,
get
yeah,
that
yep.
PR.
Yeah, but here's the nice thing. So while Pennant isn't, because open feature is open source, there was somebody who came out with what was it called? I think they called it Open Feature Laravel. So somebody released it's not me. Somebody released a package. I think it's this one. Is it this one? Yeah. So this one allows for you to like basically, instead of using that Laravel pennant, you can install this one, and this gives you the structure that you need.
That's kind
I
of
think it's
cool.
really cool. It is.
I've never used Laravel. I've heard of it. I've seen it used when I was in Africa. I noticed that most of them used Laravel, like PHP and specifically Laravel.
PHP is huge in Africa. I met a while ago. Um, I should say met. I had like online communications. Have you heard of Leaf? Have I talked about this before? So
I don't think you have.
this is a developer based out of, where is he based out of? Um, Ghana.
I was gonna.
Yeah. And so he developed this. And I would say that this framework is the second best framework that I've ever seen in this ecosystem, from the idea of like the turnkey solution, give you the simple thing that you need, have a powerful API, get you from 0 to 60 really fast. Like they did such a good job at building this out. And I feel like these areas of the world where PHP, like the so much of the North American context has said PHP doesn't matter anymore. And so many other people around the world have said like this is an accessible programming language to get in. And like this is such a powerful little micro framework if you're looking to do things. Like this is it to get like a really simple API response set up. And it's super fast to install, super fast to run. I did a stream a while ago actually uh where I like explored putting feature flags in here, and it was a pretty straightforward process. And then the founder reached out and he was like, "Hey, I want to integrate these changes into the onboarding flow," which I thought was really fantastic too.
Oh, they
Yeah.
have videos too. Oh, wow.
Well, I don't think they're not from them. They're from other locations, but like there's no assumption in here. I feel like with so many of these languages, like yeah, maybe Rust and some of the higher end JavaScripts, there's the assumption that everybody's an expert. And I feel like Leaf and Laravel and a lot of these other platforms start from the position of not everybody is an expert. And so therefore we're going to provide the resources for anybody to get started. It's like universal design for programming. We're going to give you the ecosystem that you need to get there, and you can skip the things that you don't need. But yeah, I love this. I wouldn't build an application in it, like a production application, only because the ecosystem is not big enough, but I want it to get bigger. And I guess the way to get it bigger is to start using it. But um, anyways, I love Leaf PHP. I cannot say enough positive things about it, but I'm definitely a big Laravel stan. Well, are we going to build? We should talk about building something today. I don't think we're going to build anything because I don't think we have enough time, but I feel like we should talk about building something. What are we going to build? We said last week we were going to build a linear integration. Do we still want to do that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't know. Like now that I see that you have actual projects that you're working on, I'm like, why don't we just build something into your thing or either my thing? Um, hmm. What can we do though? There's so many things that we can do.
I mean, we can build anything. Okay, so here's the thing that I'd been wanting to do for a while is we could, and I mean combining the two of them, but I had actually so the Leaf MVC. So if we want to stay in the PHP ecosystem, um, they have designed their this ecosystem around like a plugin system. So
Oh,
basically,
I
you
think I
start with
see
the
where you're
base
going with
model.
this. Are you saying
Yeah,
we develop plugins for
I'm
Leaf?
saying I'm saying we develop plugins for Leaf. We develop
Yeah,
a
let's do it.
DevCycle,
Yeah, I think
and
that's perfect. Yeah.
I feel like it's fun. I mean, I feel like the linear one would be good, but it's a closed ecosystem. We're going to be basically just fighting with the linear API, whereas this, like, everything's open. We're contributing to the world. It gives people the ability to jump in and just kind of get started with this framework, and maybe helps to get more people using this.
Well, I look at it it's like there's more impact here than there is with
I think
linear.
so. I
First of all,
agree.
like linear is only people who are using linear. Most people don't even know what that is. Let's be real. Most people don't use issue managers.
True.
So it's like even at my company, we don't use linear, so I wouldn't even be able to use it.
Really?
Yeah, we
Oh,
use
you guys, that's right. Use Asana, right?
yeah, like I would honestly, I am more of a GitHub person where it's like I will use GitHub issues for issues, because they work very well. Uh, not this GitHub project. There is a new type of GitHub project. Go to actually, you know what? Can I share my screen?
Yeah. Take over.
How do I? Hold on.
This will be the real discovery.
Okay, so my screen. Okay, so it's sharing on my stream. What? Okay.
It's not sharing on my stream yet, so you got to
Okay.
share. Yeah.
I don't know what monitor is what. I have four.
It won't automatically go up. Don't worry. I'll have to put it onto the stream.
Give me a second.
So if it's the wrong one.
I think it's this one. People on my stream are seeing what I was seeing. All right, so I think I'm sharing with you now. Maybe.
Yeah, you're up there.
Okay.
So I know chat has been quiet on both ends, but we've like been keeping like a pretty consistent audience has been on both of these streams, just like
how many
watching and listening to us talk.
There's 7 for me.
Yeah, there's been like between 6 and 10 for the past like hour or so, like consistently, which is interesting. Just need to talk on stream more about random stuff. That's really what the audience is saying.
Okay, all right. So let's go to this repo here. Actually, you know what? Oh yeah. I'll show this. I don't want to show work stuff. So I have this like larger project here. Well, it's not really that large, but these can actually go across repositories, which is the key, right? So like if I want to create a new whatever, I can say a new whatever, and that'll go off and create it. And if I go and select it, I can convert it to an issue. And I can select what repo I want it to be attached to. I can do assignees, statuses, all that kind of stuff.
This is GitHub projects?
Yeah, it's a new one. Yeah.
Since when?
It's the new GitHub issues, right? So they like we had one type of project which was like Kanban board, but now we have this new version of it right here, which is you do full-on project management in GitHub.
Oh, I love that.
And I love it because, I was paying for GitHub. I still do pay for GitHub. And I like, it's more value at that point, right? Like, why would I go and spend $10 a month for Linear per user when I'm already giving GitHub $7 a month per user, and I can get access to all of these types of things. So you kind of see like, what are all the things? Here's a roadmap. We'll just grade it just so we can see it. So yeah, you can see all these different views, and this is where you go in and you can just select what kind of thing that you want it to be, like whether it's a table, Kanban board. You can add your own columns, do whatever you want. You can add automation.
This has a very linear vibe to it.
Uh,
this is not the project. This is not your grandmother's GitHub projects.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that this came out, I want to say this came out shortly after Linear came out. And I say shortly after. I know they have been working on this for a while before Linear had came out. But yeah, it does all of the things that you would expect from like an issue tracker. And the fact that it goes across repositories is what makes it a killer feature. And you could do milestones and all that kind of stuff. Now, what you can't really do is, how in Linear, how you can add like prioritization and you can add like points and like cycles and all that kind of stuff. You don't get that here. That's the thing that you miss out on. So you don't really get the project management stuff. You just get the issue tracking stuff.
Still, I mean, half the reason engineering teams are using it is to complement their issue tracking. So why not have it all in one place, right? Like less confusion. I love that.
Well, it seems like they've solved that they have their integration, which, is kind of cool. It's solving a problem that I didn't realize most people had because I worked at GitHub. I didn't know that most people didn't work this way, which is everyone at GitHub had GitHub. Whereas at most companies, everyone, like the only people who have access to GitHub are the engineers. So then there's this weird divide between, you have engineers who have their work and, people are trying to manage that, but you have project managers using a different system. Maybe you have sales using a different system. Maybe you have marketing using a different system. How do you make sure that, like, how do you have transparency on what people are working on? Right? Like, if I'm working on something, I'm probably in GitHub. All of my PR, my work, my updates are in GitHub, but you don't have access to it. So, like, I think that's where tools like Asana and Linear and all those come in. Is that
True.
it's like, let's just get everybody onto that. But my mindset, and I guess my mindset is just because I was actually paying the money, which is like, why would I do that when those tools cost more than GitHub? It's like, I'd rather have the people who I'm with on my team learn how to use GitHub versus me saying, you know what, they can't learn how to use GitHub, not get just GitHub. And because of that, I'm willing to spend an extra $4 per month for them. It's a lot of money when you start adding it up across, 10 or so people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Damn. I love this. This is good news. I feel like tune into the Will and Andrew streams for nothing else than to just get hot takes on interesting tools. They're not even that hot. They're like lukewarm takes on not some of them are hot, but most of them are just like they're like the temperature you want the takes to be to enjoy it. But this is good. I might actually revisit GitHub projects, which I never thought that I would say. I may also one day revisit GitHub Wiki, but I don't think
They
that's
haven't
going to be
updated
today.
wikis in a long time. I wouldn't recommend it.
We worked really closely with somebody who'd been involved in GitHub for a while, many years ago in a previous company. And he said, like, nobody uses GitHub Wiki. The fact that it's still there is like a legacy piece of like, it exists for the sake of existence at this point.
It is. I had some very long-term staffers on my team. I think when I started, like, they were there for like 7 or 8 years by that time I had came, and they went into the history about no wikis, whatever. Basically, we decided that we don't want to do that, but we never killed it. It's the same with Gist as well. So there's a Gist product, which is on a separate subdomain, gist.github.com. And it hasn't really been updated, but we still keep it around. And I use it. Like, I use what do you call it, wikis as well, but like with the intended reason for what they were designed for, which most people don't do that. And no, I don't think they want to expend the effort to get it, get that. But here, there's one thing that I want to show you, because I don't know if you knew this. I'm gonna just go to some random whatever repo. Got a YTT gen, maybe.
Is this the new project repo? No, this is the archive one.
No, this is my YT gen, the project repo that I work on all my off time, whatever. So you see how I was able to just go here without having to touch my mouse, all that. Or maybe you didn't notice that, how I can go.
Oh, I thought that was within Arc. I didn't realize that was within GitHub. What?
Yeah, this is
what?
GitHub. Look, I can go to my issues. I can go to my pull request. Let's go back to my issues, and then like I can create a new issue just by like these are the reasons why you can do all the things that you could do in Linear on GitHub. You have all.
What's the command palette access? Is it just?
So what I want you to do is I want you to press shift question mark. Shift question mark.
Shift question mark?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Shift C Copilot chat. Open command palette, Command K.
You didn't even know you could do these things, did you?
This is wild. Why have I been navigating with my mouse for so many years? This is
or my favorite one, like when people are searching, it's interesting to me. Like, let's say that you want to search for something, right? What I would do is what you're about to see. I'll do the little thingamajig, right? Whatever. And I can say author, and then I can say like Andrew or whatever. So this is how I'm used to searching, because I know all of the what do you call those things? I forget what we call them. All of the filters, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is how I generally search for things. And what's interesting is that if you don't know these things, you can actually you can get access to the command palette, or I don't know what you call them, or the terms, the search terms or whatever. But yeah, there's some really cool things you could do with GitHub these days.
I'm like ridiculously impressed. That's super cool. I'll say that I'll use this and I never will, but I might actually now, because I'm genuinely like, most of what I do when I log into GitHub is I like go into GitHub, and then I'm just navigating to a specific repo, which takes me like 16 steps to do
Why are
Damn.
you navigating to a repo?
Because I often have to, so I
I
use
meant
a
on GitHub.
stage.
I meant on
No,
GitHub.
no, I know. So I do all of my deployment processes manually. So I'll deploy to staging. And then if I want to deploy to production, I'll actually like merge a PR from myself, just as like a check and balance so that I don't mess things up. So I'm often like, I'll do a push and then I'll have to go to GitHub to like create a PR and move. And I could do that not having to go, but like I like the manual process of stopping me from releasing something that shouldn't be released, you know?
Okay. What we did at GitHub was something like this. You would do a dot release, whatever your branch is, whatever the project is. So we'll say
Will, what are you
desktop.
doing to me? Don't you show me that I don't even need to do that. Oh,
Well, no. I mean, you don't have to do it, but like, you wouldn't just be able to just type this somewhere and just have it work. This is like we called it chat ops, where we can do anything we want from within Slack, which is the reason why all of the things that I do is driven through Slack. That's the reason why I'm the way I am. Because like
that's
I'm
smart.
used to doing everything through Slack, not having to use my mouse, all these things. So this is what we were doing, and if we wanted to make sure like that we didn't go through the release process, which is never the case, you could put a bang to just be like a force kind of thing. So if you
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it this way, like it's going to force you to go around and do it the right way. Basically, what I'm saying is that you can automate it and like
I
build in all those things. It takes time, like
it does. It
you
does.
and
I
you
don't
should do
know.
it manually first. That's what I do with all of my
You should.
things. That's why
Yeah.
I know what it is that I need to do, is because I've done it manually. I've gotten pissed off. Hence the reason I'm now automated it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I use a service for my personal projects. So I use like one that does auto deploy for one of my projects, but the other one I use is this like awesome company out of the Netherlands called Launch Deck. Um, and they're like, it's a super smooth deployment process. Is that the one? No, it's launchdeck.io. I realized you were sharing, but I use this one and it's like a really, really simple deployment tool, but it requires like a manual process. Ultimately, like it does all the build. You can set it to do the build process automatically, but like all the actual publishing has to be set manually. And so, um, but it works and it's just like super smooth. And I enjoy having that extra process. If I have to go in, I have to actually do the work because it ensures that like quality code ish is being released.
I had something like that as well. Here, let
Oh
me
yeah,
yeah. Let me show it to you.
I feel like it's probably a GitHub action, right?
Yeah, I made it as an action. I think it was my one of these APIs here. Yeah, it was this API. Let me see. Oops. So what is it? Branch deploy. I want to say that this does that. Oh wait, how do I actually? All right. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Let's actually go look at the workflow. Yeah. So I got it to the point where I had my infrastructure looking at a particular branch,
Yeah,
and my workflow is very similar to yours. Like I have a PR workflow, and it
yeah,
has to have a specific label. And assuming that that PR is there or whatever, this action will run based off of whatever. And I think I had a what do you call that? A dispatch where I can actually go and click a button, or I can send an API request, and that'll actually run the action on my behalf. Now, it wasn't just like straightforward, right? Like I had to know how my infrastructure is working, and then I had to like go off and build all this stuff, and it took a while, and it sucked, but I guess the upside is that if anything went wrong, I could fix it. And
yeah.
that's something that's like, ah, man. Sometimes I will do something the hard way just because I know that in the long run, it's not as hard. I can at least fix it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I've often heard, like I read it. So I started doing the deployment and staging and production because I was like, this is what you're supposed to do. And then I heard a lot of people be like, you're a single person developing a platform. Like you can just like, you don't need to approve anything. You can just kind of do it. And I was like, yeah, but then like if I release something in the wrong way, like I'm going to regret that forever. I'd
Well, I
rather
think
have these
process.
checks and
I think
balances.
just having process, like I think having process is useful because it's you don't have to make decisions. Really, you just do the things. You just go through the motions and rely on the system that you've hopefully built over time to kind of protect you. And when you cause issues, then you go fix your system. I'm just like
Yep.
you. Like I have a review process. Like I do everything through PRs. And yeah, even though I could like just merge in the main and like force push commits and all that, I don't, because I'm of the opinion that what you do in your free time is going to be the things that you do when it's crunch time, right? Where it's like
Absolutely.
the things that you're practicing now, they're going to come back up. So like, why not practice greatness and like
Hey,
don't
there
be
you
lazy.
go. I like it. Greatness. Yeah, you might enjoy this whole story. I worked at the university for a number of years, and I supervised co-op students. And I was supervising one co-op student a few years ago, and she was working at a company where she had been brought in, and the task they gave her was to do research into whether GitHub was a worthwhile platform for them to consider using, because they weren't doing version control and they thought that it was probably a good idea. And this was like a company that had like enough money and time to exist as a company and have co-op students or like interns, and they weren't using GitHub. And I was like, the processes inside of that company must just have been an absolute mess.
Or
Like,
there is none. Cause like because that's what you use version control for, right? It's a you realize that you need some type of process because all of these versions are getting out of hand. You can't manage it, and it's causing issues like friction within your team. Like you can't change it. So yeah, but I agree with that sentiment that if people aren't using certain things, it may speak to issues with lack of process in their organization, or maybe not. Maybe they're doing something that works for them.
yeah,
I don't know.
maybe. But I'm glad to find a kindred spirit in somebody that does things that are unnecessary, but at the end of the day are actually good
No, they're
practice.
necessary. Like do it right. That's the way I was raised. It's like you do it right whether or not someone's looking. Like you do it right. It's that simple.
Eventually someone will look.
Even if
I
no
have
one's
my
looking, like you know that you did it. If you did something wrong, it's like how do you expect other people to respect you if you don't even respect yourself enough to do it right?
true that. Yeah, I gotta say, I say that I do things right. The first project that I worked on, that I'm like in the process of not open sourcing it, but just like doing some source of making it source available. But there's some rough PRs that exist inside of this that are just like an absolute mess. And I'm like, I think what I'm gonna do is just I'll archive the current version and I'll fork it, and I'll just do like a git reset and just start from scratch with, and my spaghetti code can be spaghetti code, because at the end of the day, going through my git logs is not going to tell you anything meaningful anyways.
But it may help you. Like I'm gonna have to do it myself when I eventually potentially open source this project. Is I'm gonna have to go and pay for all of the decisions that I've made to
Yeah,
not do anything. So it's like maybe that's part of it. Like you have to go through that pain,
I think
and
it's
it
part of the
teaches you a
journey.
lesson.
But then I also what hold on, let me see if I'll see if I can pull this up. I wonder how many PRs I have. How many I
Oh,
think I must
here I
have
can
like,
I can stop sharing.
no, you're good. Oh, yeah, why am I looking in here? I'm gonna use my hold on, let me get my screen share up here.
You can
Where are
just
you
go to your
hiding?
profile. It'll tell you there if you have one
Yeah,
of
it
those
will. All right, so I'm
names.
back up here. I'm gonna go back over to here. I'm gonna search up this application I've been working on, and I feel like it's actually less commits than I thought I had. This is less commits than I thought I had. So I'm okay with this. But like I remember when I started to get up into the many hundreds of commits, I was like, there's far too many commits that are going into the system.
It's not the commits that matter. I would not optimize for that. It's your PRs. That's the only thing that really matters.
How many PRs have I had? Got a lot of bumps that I need to deal with. 321.
Yeah. So like considering that you have almost 1,000 for 320 PRs, that's about 3.5, 4 commits per PR. That's not too bad.
What? Okay, I'll take that.
That's why it's like it's not just commits. I know, and this is the issue. Honestly, this is an issue with like because there are a lot of companies who want to use metrics to like to show developer productivity or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, for instance, if someone was looking at commits as a metric of how productive are you, they would be completely missing the point. Someone like me can game the shit out of that, where it's like, okay, all right, every freaking line that I write is a commit. Versus, if you do
Really?
PRs, I mean, because a commit can be whatever you want, right? Like you can do, I do, what do you call those things? I can't remember the names of things, but I do line level commits.
Okay.
So like I go in and make sure that whatever group of changes, like the change set, they're all related. And then I'll make a commit based off of that one atomic thing. And I try to do that. I'm lying. I don't actually do it all the time.
It's good practice, though. I feel like then you can at least go in and know.
Well, it enables you to do something like git bisect. So if you end up coming across issues, you can basically do a binary search to identify where it is, like which SHA introduced that defect.
Huh. There you go. What's what I'm looking for? Yeah, Dora metrics, right? Yeah, Dora metrics. This is our past our former CEO was a big fan of Dora metrics. And so I think this was a Google project. Yeah, DevOps research and assessment, deployment frequency, lead time for changes, change failure rate, and time to restore service. No, that's not it. That's not what Dora stands for. What does it stand for?
By the way, Google released their SRE book, their book on site reliability engineering. Yeah.
Did you get caught up, by the way, any of your projects in the in that massive outage that happened last week? That probably had a bunch of SREs
I'm not
having
even
a real
sure
bad day.
What outage? I'm not
Really?
Yeah, what outage? I don't know what happened.
Oh my goodness. Hold on, let me put this up to the side. Major outage.
Oh, by the way, just FYI, I have a meeting in oh no, at 4:45 we're good. Never mind. It's at 4:45. I thought it was at 15, but we're good.
All right, so we'll finish up here in a minute. We've got an idea for a project. But yeah, there was like a big outage on Facebook and Instagram, but there was another outage too that happened recently that wasn't Facebook and Instagram. It was another one. Anyways, doesn't matter. That's awesome though. Is this the book that you're talking about?
No, like I'll go back to Google and type book at the end because it's literally a book.
Google site SRE book. Oh,
yeah, that thing.
There you go.
And what's interesting is that if you go to release engineering, I think it's scroll up. Actually, scroll. No, it's not that one. Not that far. It may be in 2. Yeah, I think chapter 1 or 2, where they basically go into why engineers started building feature flags. So if you just do a search for feature flag, maybe you'll see a sentence in here about it. Yeah, new feature launch maybe.
Or new feature.
Yeah, so it said it right there. So at their core, if you go back to at their core, the ops team wants to make sure the services don't break. While engineers, they want to get their new features out. So basically, they kind of get in, and I don't know if it's in this particular chapter, it may be in a subsequent chapter, but they were getting into how feature flagging is a symptom of this divide between 2 different types of developers. You have the developers who build the applications, and then you have the developers who like build and ensure the system runs. Basically, like your DevOps people, like all of those folks, and how like they have 2 necessarily distinct things they're optimizing for. Dev, they basically ideally nothing changes because once they get it working, it's working. Whereas the engineers, they want to get stuff out as quickly as possible, but they're probably not thinking about the implications of their feature, like on the infrastructure, on the the infrastructure's ability to run said feature. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. So
Absolutely.
that in there.
Yeah. Have you seen how big feature flags have got? I don't know. You probably have not. This is not a thing that would have appeared in your life, probably. But if you look worldwide, feature flags, and you look like from the beginning of time until now, like feature flags are like more popular than they have literally ever been in like the history of feature flags. Um, it's kind of insane how fast that this has become such a big topic.
Yeah, it makes it's actually interesting. Why do we? I'm not saying we should know now, but like just why is that the case? Because in my experience, or at least from what I've been told, it's easier than ever to deploy. Right,
It
like
is.
it's
I think
easier
that's
than ever.
probably the issue. I feel like that's it, right? It's easier to deploy. And therefore, if you make a mistake, there's more mistakes that are happening because you don't have like an actual process that is there. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong,
I
but
don't know either. I don't know.
it's a good question. I don't know. I also feel like feature flagging, like there's more platforms now, like even 5 years ago, like 20, well, not even 5 years ago, but yeah, like we go back here, like feature flags in like 2018, there was like one company that did feature flags
That
and it was
launched
launched
darkly.
darkly and they were the only ones in the game. And then like 2022, like there's a ton of companies like this is where like open feature started and where a lot of these other companies. And yeah, like now we're just like the it's only going up. There's more feature flag platforms that are launched every day. It's absolutely insane. There's like over 1,000 different repositories on GitHub talking about feature flags. Like every framework, every language, every technology has got some sort of feature flags. DevCylce just released their own like internal feature flagging tool. What is it called? DevCylce feature flags.
I love look at the SEO that Launch Darkly's doing.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean,
How did they get that?
you got to give it to them. Yeah, they were there since the very beginning. Is this the one here? Yeah, so like this is their like implementation of.
Oh, Launch Darkly is here too.
Imagine that. They are like, if you mention feature flags, the only person that is ever talked about is Launch Darkly. Like everybody else is in the space, but they are definitely the ones that are talked about the most. But yeah, like everybody's implementing these into their platforms. And so um, why would you not start building things with feature flags?
Yeah, this would have been
Uh,
cool with desktop, just to be able to like have a visual. I mean, we had a way to turn them on, but it wasn't like a visual thing. It was more like, oh, here's a file on a server somewhere,
yeah,
and just go update it. And yeah, I mean, I guess it
remote
didn't it
config.
didn't really make a difference, but like it would have been cool if there wasn't like a self-roll solution. But this was back in like 2015 when this was started, so it
Yeah,
wasn't as popular back like it is now.
not as popular, but now feature flags are the new hotness. They are the sexy new technology. I'm here for it because we can build cool things with feature flags. Speaking of building, we're not going to do it today again. We talked about lots of stuff today, which I think
Yeah,
is
we're
far
gonna
more
build a
important.
plugin.
We're going to build a plugin.
Two plugins, right?
Two
Two.
plugins. Yeah, I think we're going to have to. Um, I just, yeah. Have you played in PHP or not really? Will?
I did PHP from I don't know, like senior year to senior year to senior year in college. So
Okay,
but like not for work, not for a
that's
job,
okay.
but like let's just
But
say
you
that
know
I'm
it.
familiar with enough programming languages to I'll be okay. It was just a
You'll be
matter of
okay.
like I'll have to remember the syntax.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing that I would say is like, if you're jumping back in with any framework, this is the one. Like this is such a fun one to jump into. And like they've done a good job at actually laying out the structure for their plugins. It's not super well documented. And I know
Maybe that's part of what we do, right? Like help with that.
but yeah, like they basically have like little module. That's what they call them. They don't call them plugins. They call them modules. Ecosystem. Where is it hiding in here? Module.
So the main
Yeah,
things that
modules.
I think we would need is life cycle, like what the life cycle is, as well as how do they pass us the request or response. Because for your thing, like we're gonna need to inspect the request.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry, no, that's a lie. we need to send a request to your servers, and then we'll inspect that response to figure out what to do. Whereas on my side, it's mostly just a call to the API. Like there's
Yeah.
not really any state that we have to bring down.
The nice thing I feel like that's going to be beneficial here is like I have a very strong feeling one signal Laravel. I have a feeling that somebody has built out a one signal Laravel plugin, and so we can use that for inspiration. Yeah, one signal push notifications for Laravel.
I updated 9 days ago.
So like I feel as though we can probably just dig through some of the code that already exists. So yeah. And the thing is like they add a lot of
I thought this
extra
was
stuff.
I thought we were going to do the other one.
So we're gonna do for Leaf, but Leaf has taken a lot of its inspiration from Laravel. So a lot
Okay,
of the
okay.
same logic, like but Laravel also adds in like service providers and facades that like just we're not going to use in Leaf, like it's too much. Um, so like really, this is the stuff that we're going to be pulling from.
Do you know what Guzzle is? Like that library? Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah. Why?
What does it do?
Oh, it's just a HTTP client. It's
Oh,
just to
okay.
do your API requests. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think it might be built in to Leaf.
Yeah. That's the other thing. It's like, is it built in, or what we want to take in something as a dependency, like some type of client that implements some interface? But if we could just use the framework, that would be ideal, because I would prefer to just use the framework, because most other plugins should, like, if there is a plugin that replaces framework features, hopefully the framework is smart enough to do that orchestration for us. I don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah, let's see. Leaf module. I feel like once we get into this on the next stream, there's also probably going to be. Oh, have they renamed it to Leafs? That's interesting. Maybe they haven't renamed it, but maybe it was always Leafs. Or maybe that's just Leaf PHP wasn't available. But I feel like that, yeah, there's probably some.
Well, I'm like, either way, I think we can learn. Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty confident we can learn this, and we can ask. Like, I'm never against just popping an issue as a question and being like, "Yo, I'm trying to do this. How do you do it?"
Yeah, and they got a Discord, like a pretty quiet Discord channel, but they've got a Discord channel as well.
So we should join the Discord too next time.
Yeah. Also, and the other great thing for us, so we were, and maybe this is just on my side. I don't know. I get really giddy when I talk about some of these frameworks, but I was building out this these example apps that we were using in DevCycle, and I built one out for PHP Leaf in open feature. So it's actually like an example application in like the most basic implementation of it, so that we can actually kind of see what it looks like. Anyways, all to say, I think this is a fun project and helps us contribute to an ecosystem that I think needs some love. Like I really, really do like the work that they're doing. And I feel like they need more. They need more. They deserve more. They're doing cool stuff. I'm going to follow them right now.
All right. Well, we have our plan for the next set of streams.
We have our plan.
Yeah, I guess we'll get started then. I guess we're not going to be meeting up this month again, right? It'll be next month.
So we'll do, because I'm gone. I'm gone when? Let me see.
Well, you said next week and the week after, right?
Yeah, so I leave, we're the 11th now. So I leave on the 18th, and then I'm back on, so why don't we look the first week of April? So like so Easter Monday is April 1st. So like maybe the Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday that week.
That's fine.
What is that? Which works best for you?
I'm going to say a Wednesday for now, but as you're probably well aware by now, I'll like closer to that time. I can confirm.
I'm going to book something in off camera right now, because otherwise I'm going to forget. And then at least we have it in there as a hold. Let's grab it in there. Okay. Let's go April the 3rd. That's the Wednesday. We'll put it in for same time. Let's go there. And then we'll go Andrew plus Will stream. And we'll hold in there. All right. Let's add that in there. Man, Will, we went all around the block today. We went all over the place, and I kind of love it.
Well, that's I'm pretty. I think I do that often. Though. I'm kind of all over the place in general. Uh, some people some people like it, some people don't.
I do. I love it. I think it's fun. You know what? People stuck around. They watched. Thank you, by the way, chat, for being here, for sticking around, for watching us. I know not a lot of folks decided to chat with us, but that's okay. You can chat with us next time. Come back. We're going to be back on April 3rd. That's two weeks or 3 weeks away. And we're going to build something for Leaf. We're going to have some fun. We're going to actually get into some code. We have yet to get into code for this year, and I'm here for it. I'm very here for it.
Just before we go, what IDE do you recommend? Is Visual Studio Code, is this sufficient? Does it have like completion and all that kind of stuff, or are you using something else?
No, they're pretty young, so I think VS Code is like there's no VS Code extensions that have been built. Hold on.
No, I
Hold
meant
the
like for the
phone.
language itself for PHP.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
PHP. Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, there's IntelliSense and all the rest of it. So I think we're
gotcha.
good there.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. I think VS Code is the way to go. I think we can have some fun with it.
all right. And I mean, we'll figure this out too. But like, I want to make sure we have the same versions of PHP and all that kind of stuff. But we'll do that next time. Machine setup. How about that? Getting set up.
Machine setup, episode 3, machine setup.
Yeah, so I'll
Episode
send up
one,
a Linux repo or something, or a Linux.
Phyllis
Yeah.
philosophical conversations. Episode 2, project deciding. Episode 3, machine setup. By episode 6,
you should really put that in there because that's the only way that'll happen. If you like put it in the thing, it's like it'll let me know. Oh, I need to start thinking about this so that when I start.
Let's go. What did you say? What do we call it?
I guess machine, like getting set up, getting started.
Machine
like,
setup.
yeah,
Let's call it
setup.
that. All right, done. Added to the calendar invite. So we got it.
So that's the only one we need for right now. We can figure out the rest later.
That's it. We're good. We got this. Amazing, man. Well, I know I say this every time, and I hope you realize that I do very much mean it. I really enjoy these streams every time we do them. These are always like definitely a highlight of my week. So
I'm glad to hear it. Let's keep doing more of them. And
yeah, man.
And like, hopefully over time we'll hopefully get a bigger audience to join us, who can give some feedback. Let us know what we should do so we don't have to think for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're trying to
the project.
We're trying to be lazy here. That's the thing. It's that I don't think they understand. It's that we want to be lazy. We want you to do our work for us. So, the sooner you do it, the better. We can do more interesting things.
That's how I live my entire life. Amazing. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here. This has been a lot of fun. I need to get something though before I go. I need to grab a screen cap of you because I need to do my cards up after this, and the quality of the stuff that I always put through from the video recordings is never great. So I gotta grab.
Oh, you need like a thamajig?
I grab I do like.
You shouldn't grab it from yours. Give me a second. Let me. Wait. How do I?
It's not too bad. I got a decent one of you from Ecamm. The quality's pretty good.
It looks different. It looks very different. Get the one from your own Zoom. Get the one from Zoom.
I'm going. All right. I'm gonna go into Zoom. Where are we? Zoom.
I was about to say.
Where are you hiding?
I'm sharing my real one in Zoom. So you notice that it looks very different from what yours.
So the StreamYard one is it's a little dicey, but the Ecamm one is pretty good.
What you're seeing is my raw video feed from my Ninja. That's what you're seeing there. It's because if I show you my real one, like the one that's the post raw feed, you will see like all of my other stuff in your stream. Like
fair enough.
And then I don't want to do that. So like that's why.
That's fair. I don't know. I'm
But this is only because we're doing double streaming, right? Like if we weren't doing double streaming, we would be good. You would be seeing the real one.
The joys of doing streaming on many different devices. This is what you get. But I don't know. We got there. I've got a billion photos or a billion screen caps that I've just taken. There'll be something good that comes out of that. I think we'll be fine. All right. Well, Will, thank you yet again. This was a lot of fun. And folks, if you're watching, we'll be back for another code. We'll actually do a code elaboration. We'll be back again in a couple weeks. be sure to be here. Come back, hang out with us, share some thoughts with us. We want to talk to you. But until then, thanks for being here, and we will see you next time here on the internet, everywhere.
Peace out.
Bye.